I have one quick. It's related to what Daddy Freeze was talking about security, right? We watched a video on Instagram a few days ago. You guys said he was kidnapped in public transportation, right? So is there any plan by your government, when you are elected, to formalize public transportation in such a way that if I enter a taxi, for example, it has a number that I can refer to in the future, right? Because I lived in Abu Dhabi for 4 years, and if I left my phone in a taxi, right, I call the taxi company and I say, hey, I was picked up from in front of X hotel, for example, at 7 p.m. They know who picked me up, and they can tell me if the person returned my phone to them, right? So is there a plan to like take over the public transportation system or register them somehow so that when a Lagosian sees a taxi, it has a number or some sort of seal from the Lagos state government that assures him that, he's safe entering that taxi? Because I don't think that exists today.
Yes, I completely agree. And these are things that the government will work together with stakeholders in that sector to deliver. Also, mainly on the public buses, there must be a camera there that's recording and keeping track of the activities that are going on there, not just on the bus, but on the bus stops as well, and areas that are in its primary environs. I also feel that this also should go down to local governments as well. And that's why I keep talking about autonomy at local government level and it's not just taxis, it's also bikes, right? I don't believe in just this banning of things outrightly. I think that's a lazy way of thinking. I think you can look at things and see, for instance, the last mile for people to get home from the immediate bus stop, right? Some people cannot get there without Okadas. So how do you register those Okadas to make sure that they're only able to apply in that ward, right? And they are registered with the local government, right? So if anything goes wrong, the local government can monitor and track them, right? And ensure that the process of the registration is so robust but also accessible that these people would feel the need to, uphold the laws and regulations that got them that permit, right? So those are things we'll be looking at, and we really need visionary local government chairmen, and that's what we'll be doing.
All right, thank you
Thank you very much.
As soon as I brought him on, the viewership increased by 50 people.
The APC man,
Team Ashiwaju on Clash of the Supporters, which is my Tuesday show at midnight.
Okay.
So he's your opposition. And quite a few people are back and forth already. It looks like it's going to get quite interesting. So, DJ Bongolee, we have the gubernatorial candidate for the Labour Party, Mr. Gbadebo, Vivour, if I got that correctly.
Correct.
What are your questions?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good night. My name is Ayodeji Bakare, aka DJ Bongolee. I am a chemical engineer by practice, and I'm also a DJ on the side. I'm a card-carrying member of the APC, and you wished for APC and you got APC. So, firstly, this might not be I might not be asking questions. I'm going to make it interesting because there are lots of things that you said that I do not agree with. Like everything you have said today, I don't agree with it 1%, unfortunately. Now, firstly, when you started talking, you talked about the Gbadebo menace and all that stuff. And then we're talking about security and traffic and all of that. Now, these same Gbadebos that you are vilifying in quotes and people you are vilifying, the head of the Gbadebo brought about the barcode system that buses and cabs will have barcodes. So people on their phones can also scan. Fine, yes, we know that not everyone have access to smartphones that have barcodes and all that. But an idea came from a so-called Gbadebo in quotes. So, the Gbadebos also are human beings like you and I. So I just feel this elitist kind of talk, and I see that in the comment section. Now, secondly, when Daddy Freeze asked you a question about transportation and all of that, I was like, oh yes, let me hear what he has to say. How I wish you started by talking about the population growth of Lagos State, because that will let me know that yes, there's so much you can do to the inner roads. There's so much you can do to state roads and all. And then expanding on marine transportation, because Lagos State already has that already. There's marine transportation going on in Lagos State. We have actual agencies in Lagos State. We have an agency that is for that in Lagos State. When I talk about the rail system, Lagos State has 6 rail systems that are ongoing. 2 are going to be built, completed very soon, the red rail and the blue rail. And then we have purple rail, we have green rail, we have orange rail, and we have yellow rail. So when we are talking about transportation and all that, Lagos State is doing that. You said you are going to do 4 rails in 4 years. We are talking about transportation, we're talking about traffic, we're talking about security. What would that do to our traffic? Where are you going to build where are you going to build that 4 rail lines in 4 years that will not cause traffic? Now, we also talked about the Chinese exchange system, $170 million. Lagos State is $1.5 million. Maybe you're not aware, but Lagos State has been compensating people that has the right of way, the homes and all of that stuff. Just the red rail alone, over 5,000 people had to be compensated, be it landowners, be it tenants, and be it landlords. You talked about, oh, you want buses and all of that to go into, pass through the BRT system and all of that. In the London that you're talking about, in the America that you're talking about, so buses should just be going through the bus lines. Because you talked about that also. You talked about dredging. Isn't the Lekki Free Trade Zone a success story? Because now the Lekki Free Trade Zone is going to bring in at least $200 billion in revenue. And then it's going to create over 171,000 jobs. And that is an after effect of the dredging and all of the sand filling and all of that. So when you say all of these things, I'm like, Lagos State is already doing this already. Lagos State is spending at least 10% on education already. The budget was 1.17 trillion naira in 2022 and is 170 billion on education alone. So you have all of these beautiful ideas and all of that. Where will you find the money? Where is the funding for the money? Because Lagos State budget, Lagos State is always having a budget deficit of about 15 to 20%. So where will we see the money? That is my question. I just put those comments and then I just threw that question. Where will we get the funding? Because they are all very beautiful ideas.
No. Well, I'm sorry. You can't just say comments. I have to address everything that you've said.
No problem.
Right?
I'm here for you, sir. I'm here for you,
okay.
Sir. Let's go.
So when we talk about Agbero Menace, I sat down with the chairman of the bus unions, right? And there's nothing elitist about the people, chairman of bus unions. They are completely distraught. They are in court. In fact, they wanted to protest, but they were so scared for their lives about what will happen to them, intimidation and all whatnot. The main thing that came out from their thing is that monkey they walk, baboon they chop. I'm waking up early, in charge of maintaining my bus, moving around, and people are just collecting. The fact of the matter is this: you have a situation where there was a time in Lagos where none of these things existed. You have a situation where you have so many young men wasting their lives away, standing on street corners, enabled by the state, and there was no bigger epitome of this than during NSAS when BRT buses, busloads of people came in front of the state building in Alausa carrying young men with machetes trying to attack young innocent protesters. That was literally the epitome of all of that, right? So when you talk about a barcode system, people are bringing ideas to anybody that has access to the I don't even know what to call him. Whoever has been in charge of the state capture of Lagos State to push projects, to push proposals. So this is not a question of being elite. or elitist, right? This is a question of young people are wasting their lives, people that are going up and down their business every day, the multiple taxations that even just the lady that's carrying a tray on her head selling granules is having to pay to these young people. We saw what happened at Alaba, where a whole bunch of them came into the market and invaded the market that led to the death of the vice chairman of the task force in Alaba. So many things, right? And you have so many young people just wasting their lives. And there must be another way. And it's not, I'm not talking a situation where put these people aside or put them apart. No, we will work with them to create engagements that will improve their employability skills, create incentives for companies to hire them, whether it is when you hire these people for the next 1 year, 2 years, you're not going to pay any tax for the salaries that you're paying these people, you know, to ensure that these people can be absorbed and be productive. Right, so that's the first thing on this agro thing. It has nothing to do about elitism, and the people that are waking up to enter buses in the morning, they are complaining about the same thing. Talking about population growth, I think that's very rich coming from the APC. It's pride that you generate this IGR from people. You generate this IGR from people. Without the population of Lagos State, you will not have this IGR that you boast about. You talk about development based on IGR. We've raised so much money. The IGR used to be so now, but it's people you are generating from, right? So you cannot just pick and choose, right? Enable these people, ensure that their businesses are thriving so that even the income that you can generate increases. So many stealth taxes that they have to do. That you do not see that in the news, but that is there. Lagos centers in the world in the next 40, 50 years that goes all the way to Abidjan. Sources, be more innovative and link to all of these things so we can actually benefit from this population that we have. Excellence for nothing. You know, Darocha in his time was pumping water from Iju. Water transport mechanism. You know, you have a little boat moving up and down. We have water transportation, right? We should have ferries that are moving around. We should have aqua buses that are moving around. We should have innovation. So when you come to Lagos State, you are seeing excellence, not just tokenism, not just, you know, you're getting by with mediocrity. People are moving around. Yes, in this, they are small. Water transportation has not become the norm because too much lip service is being paid to it. It's not being done properly. You don't have jetties that have become part, interwoven with the culture, with the society in that community, right? You have people that are going, boats can capsize, safety is a major issue that if you had a proper ferry up and down the place, right? So our waters are not properly dredged, information and data is not available for people to even invest in the system. So it can be so much more. It can be so much more. You talk about blue line, red rail. Well, first of all, the red line infrastructure, the rail itself was done by the government. It was not done by Lagos State. Yes, they have some connecting rails that they've done to it, but it was not done by Lagos State. So when you're talking about right of way and all of that, it cannot account for $900 million. No matter how you want to spin it or weave it, or some of the stories and excuses that they've made. Benchmark since the time of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Lagos State has been operating at 4 times the World Bank benchmark for any infrastructure that they are doing in Lagos State. So this price. and there's so many scams running, whether it's the dredging, whether it's roads they're doing. And then the blue line, 16 kilometers in 23 years. Okay, great. So I guess when I'm 90, we might have the remaining rails going, right? These are things that even the Lagos-Ibadan rail, how long did it take? 160 kilometers, right? So if the state cannot get their act together and put this thing in place, then they should let someone else do it, right? Let's show them how it can be done. Blue rail that was supposed to get all the way to was it Okokomaiko? It has been reduced. It was supposed to 24.5. Is now 16 kilometers. Something that should be going all the way to Badagry. And if the state is saying they don't want to partner with the private sector and they cannot fund it, then the question is why? Because as a governor, my entire purpose is to enable the quality of life of my people. It's not about the profit I'm going to make from this thing. I'm not in business, in the job to enable, right? So I will partner with the private sector to ensure that my people have an enabling environment and can move around Lagos in an affordable way. And that's my major concern, affordability, right? So Blue Line, yes, we've already, like I said, the 160 kilometers of rail that would be necessary for Lagos to work is not my idea, right? It's the plan of Lagos State, right? I'm not going to come now and tell you that I'm going to rework the design because like someone actually mentioned earlier, design, urban planning works in the cycle and everything is coming down to Marina. So, you know, there's a lot of, for instance, the Redeem Marina line, there's a lot of road sharing that is being done, right? There's a lot of thought that has gone into it. My own thing is the efficiency delivery, right? Ensuring that we can partner with infrastructure developers, right? This Lagos State is feasible to allow for these projects to happen. And 23 years should not be taken to building rail lines, in my opinion. Buses, you spoke about the red buses in London. Well, London is not suffering of buses. The blue, all these BRT buses and all of that, they barely take, last I checked, about 9 to 10% of the community in Lagos State. Each bus moves about 40 people. When you think about 5 to 6 million people moving around Lagos State every day, that's minuscule. So for the fact that we need, we should open it up transparently. It doesn't have to be a monopoly that's owned by somebody in the APC government, right? Same thing with Loma and the PSPs. It's so politicized. If I am a private person and I can afford to get a truck, I should have a transparent way where I can just go and register that truck, right? And get in, it can operate. There are still parts of Lagos that are terribly underserved. They've never seen a PSP truck come. Even Bagada. There are parts of Bagada that does not have PSP coverage, right? So we need as many trucks as possible, as many buses as possible. And that's why I'm saying that I'm advocating for the opening of these routes in a transparent and open way, set criteria for them, and you allow them to also use BRTs, except we're at a position where we have enough buses to move Lagosians across Lagos. But we are not there. I know we are not there. Dredging, free trade zone, Dangote's refinery, that entire development, you know, it's like saying that Lagos State is excellent because we have the Lekki Link Bridge, we have the Ikoyi, you know. You still have parts of Ojo, riverine areas in Apapa that don't feel that they're part of Lagos. They've never had light. They don't have any primary healthcare centers. There's so much that is lacking, right? So using and the tokenism,
Hold on, GRV. I want to round this off so I can bring somebody else. But I must appreciate how you're answering the questions. You obviously did not just stumble upon this and grab an actress as a running mate kind of thing. We can see that, and I'm sure APC Bongolee will agree that this gentleman is a bit sound. Bongo.
We will not agree.
I
There's
have a
nothing I'm
bunch
going
of
to tell you.
rebuttals to what he has said. I have a lot of rebuttals to what he has said. I still agree 0% to all the things that he has said because he has not answered one fundamental question. And the Labour Party ideology is the government running the key sectors of the economy. But I see him keep mentioning private investment. We are going to get private investors. Now, secondly, he talked about him sitting and meeting up with the ag bureaus, for example. And I know he's talking about NURTW.
No, I
Because
did not say that. I said the Association of Bus Owners, the ones that went on strike.
Okay. Apologies for that. But I just want people to realize something, that NURTW, NARTO, RTEAN, they are backed by law. Secondly, you talked about taxes. You talked about taxes also, taxing the people. Guys, do you know that from 1960 to 2015, only 13 million Nigerians were paying taxes? Today, in the last 7 years, that number has increased to 35 million. 35 million people now in Nigeria are paying taxes now. So we are improving in the tax aspect. We are saying that we are going to expand the tax bracket. That is what we are doing. We are not trying to overtax people. Expansion of the tax bracket. Now, you talked about database and all of that. Just 3 months ago, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu launched a they went to visit a database system. Himself, Muri Okunola, I think it was in Ikeja. So Lagos State is already doing that already. You talked about rail lines taking 23 years. When Tinubu brought the grand plan for that rail lines and all of that, those different rail lines that are coming up, did your former party, did the leader of your former party give him the approvals to move forward with those projects? Was it when Fashola came in that I started getting some approvals for it? Because I know you're from the PDP,
line from
I moved to the Labour Party.
All right.
Buhari stopped the metro line from Jakonde.
So we can ask the final question. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Nice meeting you, sir. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Nice meeting you, sir. All the best in the elections. I wish you the very best, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So APC has gone. I'm trying to bring in one more question from the people. Where's Priya? She came in briefly. Priya is the head of Labour Party, or should I say Team OB. And I'm sure her question would also matter, and I'll use her as the very last question. How did that go, though?
No, I think it was good. It was good engagement. He will always justify the thing, but for me, Lagos State in 1966 was ranked 56 out of the best 70 cities in the world. In the last 10 years, it's been ranked the bottom 2 worst place to live in the world. So no matter how many people want to make excuses, the numbers don't lie, you know. I just don't like the idea of justifying mediocrity.
All right. With PDP, where are you? We've had an APC question. We've had a Labour Party question. I would like a PDP question. Or what's that Showares party called again? What's Showares party called? Nobody seems to have the answer. All right. On this bombshell, can you answer his last question and then we round off?
Okay, so there was a thing he talked about education, and I said 2 million children are out of school. In terms of funding, I spoke about that earlier. One, we're blocking all the loopholes. We're going to open our accounts transparently and accountably, you know, line by line items, so that accountability takes on a life of its own. And we're going to benchmark all our projects to World Bank benchmarks. Like I said, Lagos State, since Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been doing projects at 4 times the price. of the World Bank benchmark. We're going to be meeting that benchmark and even trying to get better deals, right? And in ensuring that the Lagos state is accountable, funds that are coming into the state are not being used willy-nilly, you know, the ramp that connects Ozumba to Falomo is done at 4 times the price as it should be done. Not even just the World Bank benchmark in Ethiopia and even in Ghana, right? So we need a situation where the monies that we have are being used efficiently and we're partnering with the private sector, right? And a lot of these funds that they are declaring are still very, very under-declared. So it's only until after these 23 years, someone gets into that position and actually x-rays. If you remember when Ambode first came in, they showed you how they were doing, I think, boreholes for 70 million naira and websites for all sorts of money. So there needs to be a audit, right? So that people can actually truly know what has been going on in Lagos State for the last 20 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivour, the gubernatorial candidate for the Lagos, for the Labour Party in Lagos. So, what are your parting thoughts? Quite a lot of people turned out. They wanted to hear you speak. Many are impressed, including me.
Oh, thank you.
And it's not easy to impress me, but I
I'm
did
grateful.
enjoy this. And sadly, we didn't have too many. I was trying to be careful so I don't bring all the stubborn people. And then it now gets a little bit too chaotic. But all in all, you did very well. And Lagos deserves
Thank
a
you.
young, well-educated person. And I do hope
Thank you.
the best for you. So what are your parting notes?
Well, for me, it's very important that we understand where we are now as a country. Nigeria is on the cliff edge. The two parties pretty much have thrown up people that have amassed a whole amount of wealth from questionable means, a lot of wealth without enterprise, and money has just become the focal point of how our leaders emerge. And that is never good for a country. I feel that it's now time for the people to rise. It's time for us to have servant leaders. It's time for politicians that actually can be accountable to you because it's only you that put them there. They cannot get in there because they have money, or they cannot get in there because they control security architecture or have the agri rules. They get in there because the people put them in there. And until our politicians start to think and work with that mindset, Nigeria is not going to move forward. We are falling very low. I know that in 2015, people thought that things were bad in Nigeria, but we have that pot that we were in, the bottom of that pot has fallen out. We are literally in the fire now. And we need somebody that's going to manage our economy, that has capacity, that has the energy, you know, has the youthful vibrancy and the will, empathy, and love. You see, that's something that has been lost in our leadership. You look at people like Awolowo or Herbert Macaulay, a lot of their politics was the politics of love, was the politics of ensuring that their people did well. And that's why till today we are still singing their names and talking about them so many years after they've gone, because nobody has really stepped into those shoes. So I know that Nigerians have normalized being oppressed. You know, I tell people that if I go somewhere as a politician, I'll tell my mopo, fellow Nigerians will say that I'm not serious. I'm not a serious politician. They are used to that whole, and it came from the military. But we need to unlearn that, and we need to understand that we, the people, you, the people, are the bosses. You're hiring these people, and they must be accountable to you. Let's stop having rulers over us. Let's have servant leaders. And to do this, you need to get your voters' cards. If you are not registered, find 10 people that you convince and ensure they vote. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very grateful. God bless you.
Much for coming. Thank you so much for answering all the questions. Thank you so much for sharing out of your light, love, and education. And look forward to seeing what 2023 will play out to be.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
All right.
And
Thank you. Bye-bye.